Hello, my name is Tim Willits. I am the Chief Creative Officer at Saber Interactive. Currently, we are working on the really awesome Space Marine 2, and I'm excited to be talking about this game today. The Warhammer universe is immense, and Warhammer universe consists of different franchises. Warhammer 40K is the world, the universe that Space Marine takes place in. Space Marine is a video game version of a very classic tabletop miniatures gaming system that's about 40, maybe 50 years old now. The ultimate power fantasy is to be a Space Marine. And when you paint the miniatures and you play the tabletop, every person that plays that game fantasizes about being a Space Marine. In Space Marine 2, you now get to live that fantasy and to be a true Space Marine. And it is awesome. As you smash, crash, blow up, destroy thousands of Tyranids that stand in your way.
It must have been quite difficult to program Titus to feel that powerful, that durable, without making him feel so overpowered. How did you approach that in terms of development, in terms of making him feel that bit more powerful?
One of the things that Space Marine 2 does so well that makes you feel powerful but not invincible is you fight swarms and swarms of enemies. And with our proprietary technology, the Saber Swarm engine, we are able to create these epic, large-scale war battles where you just unleash hell on just thousands of these Tyranids, with your chainsword, your hammer, your weapons, all lessons learned from our previous game that we created, which is, World War Z. So we built upon that technology, and we really created the ultimate power fantasy.
Did the technology help decide who the enemies were going to be, the main faction, in the form of the Tyranids?
Yes, you are correct. The technology and what we can do with the swarm technology definitely pushed us into having the Tyranids as a major force that you fight against. We felt that having just the nature of the Tyranids with their swarm technology and the way that the group comes and then breaks apart, and then each of the Tyranids can act independent, was a perfect use of our technology.
When it comes to the swarm technology, you've obviously got the different forms of Tyranids. They act differently in terms of how they challenge the player. How did you manage to make it feel fair for the player?
Having such a large, chaotic battle with different Tyranids and each of the different abilities of those Tyranids, definitely was a challenge for us. But we have this technology called AI Director. What the designers can do is they can lay out a combat situation where we bring in a horde. We have, some of our enemies in the back that have projectile weapons at you. And then what the AI Director does is it's always looking at the battle. It's always looking at what you're doing. So it's looking at what your buddies are doing. Because remember, you can play this game with two of your friends through the whole thing. It's great. So it's looking at all three of you. It knows what's happening. And it will change the combat. Might send in more Tyranids in your face. May pull some guys back. Bring in some Tyranids that have projectiles. So it really keeps that pace up.
It was one of the PvE things that we got to play on the preview was you've got to detonate the bomb and disrupt the swarm. And it's like you do the final act of that PvE operation is you have to defend against wave upon wave. I thought I had it. I thought I had it down pat for the first two things. And I was like, oh no, I'm dying. I'm dying very quickly and I'm in the wrong place.
Did you play the campaign or just the PvE mission?
One of the campaign levels, and then I've got the two operations that we were given access to.
That co-op mission coincides with the campaign story as well. So what's really cool about that is when you play the main campaign, you hear about these squads that are doing cool stuff because it's such a big epic battle. And then to go with your friends and play those missions after you've played the entire campaign with your friends, it's great. I mean, it is really fun.
Making a single-player game is hard enough in this day and age, especially with the sort of scale and scope of this. At what point did you go, right, multiplayer as well, and we're going to make it super three-player co-op, we're going to put in a PvP, and we're going to put in tons of customization too?
This project is a passion project for our team. The team working on this project, led by our very talented game director, they love the world. And as you know, the Warhammer and the 40K universe, it's 100,000 years of awesomeness. There's so much to pull from, and there's so much to be inspired by. And fans of this universe they want it all. I mean, they want it all. It is important, to create a game where you can deliver what the fans really want on it. So I'm glad that you were able to play it and you had a good time.
Oh yeah, I also should say I bloody loved it. Like the time that I had on there, it was a shame that I was like, okay, right now I've got to break away to do my actual day-to-day work.
Take heart. The flame will stand against them better than any war.
I have to admit, I experienced two things, personally when I was playing the preview, one of which was the Thousand Suns Terminator, when their soul comes out and it's full of dust and you see the outline of a human before it then dissipates. I was like, that is exactly how I imagined that it would be, and to see it live, it's like, I feel strangely ratified. This was amazing.
Yes, and there was a lot of discussion about that too.
Well, it speaks of the accessibility of the game as well, because I feel like as a person who appreciates just like the nuances of the 40k and Warhammer lore at large, absolutely love it. But I know that I could give this to a friend who has no understanding about the Games Workshop IPs and still be like, this is just a bloody good game. How did that influence? The balancing act must have been pretty tough.
Creating a story that fits into the Warhammer universe, which are sometimes a little complicated to follow, but to craft that story, but to hit on kind of like major beats and true good versus evil, as Titus, this planet is under attack. Got it. If you focus on these kind of core tropes, for lack of a better word, that people understand, but you have really kick-ass gameplay, you can kind of like, oh, I get it. I understand. Space Marine 1 was great. But if you have never played that game, don't stress about it. You can play Space Marine 2. We got you covered. You'll have a great time.
Do you know what's funny, though, is that even though, like Titus, like you say, loyal Space Marine of the Imperium, does exactly what he's told, does it with a very stoic smile on his face, as it were. But this story that we're seeing here in Space Marine 2, you can see that he's dealing with a lot of regret, frustration, and potentially guilt as well. So how did you approach the idea of he's a walking tank, but he's got feelings?
You are correct. Space Marines, they're very square. They're like, we have a rule. It's for the Emperor. You tell us what to do. This is my life. Okay. To put some emotion into the game and to put a little intrigue and to put some feelings, and I know Space Marines don't typically have feelings. It just kind of helps humanize Titus, helps humanize your squad. But we do want some of that passion and some of that context for, why you're here in this world kicking ass and destroying things. If you don't know, I was at id Software for many years. We created Doom. The glory kills that you see in Doom 2016 and Eternal helped inspire our guys when we were working on Space Marine 2.
Speaking of glory kills, some of them are absolutely brutal. Are you sure that the people doing the animation department there, are they okay? Do we need to get them a cup of tea sort of thing?
The guys working on the glory kills, they definitely had the most fun. I mean, sometimes when you're just tearing a guy in half, and then you look up and there's 30 more Tyranids on you. And, and the way that the game does it, we let you have glory kill porn, for lack of a better word, but we adjust, the AI, so everybody wastes their turn to get glory killed. It's great. It really is great, but it's so intense. I think important to mention is that we do this co-op. I mean, can you point to one action game that has glory kills that has co-op? Nope, that I can think of. I mean, the technology behind that and the design and how the AI director works and the animations and the multiplayer code, that is way more difficult than people realize.
Oh yeah, we have to speak about the multiplayer PvP as well, because it's not just you teaming up with others to go out there, it's you actually going up against head-to-head with other players. How did you even approach that? Because fighting a swarm of Tyranids is one thing, but fighting another player, like you say, one-to-one, very different.
PvP combat in Space Marine 2 was definitely a challenge because you're a badass Space Marine and you're fighting your friends who are badass Space Marines. But what really works well is the combat capabilities. You've played the game. You know that there are different types of attacks. There's fast, there's slow, there's different weapons. You can block, you can dodge, you have your range. So because you have lots of tools in your combat toolbox to use, you can create this kind of dance of combat with other humans. So it's not just, smash a button and then beat up, Tyranids. You really need to learn how to use the tools in your arsenal for combat, and that really played directly into how you play in multiplayer.
The traitors attack our terrain.
If you love the newest versions of Doom, you'll love Space Marine. I'm really excited for all of you to play Space Marine 2. Comes out September 9th, but if you pre-order the game, you'll be able to play 3 days early, so you can get a leg up on all your friends, and you can bring glory to the Emperor.